Welcome to Lighten Up, the Art of Living Clutter-Free, a podcast where we tackle the literal and figurative clutter standing between you and your healthiest and happiest life. I'm Melanie, your host, coach, and guide on this journey to help you design a life that you love. Whether it's clearing out your kitchen cabinets, untangling your digital files, or letting go of the mental blocks that hold you back, we're here to make space for what truly matters. Let's lighten up together, starting now.
Welcome, everybody, back to another episode of Lighten Up, the Art of Living Clutter-Free, the place where we talk about all things clutter. And I have a special guest with me today. I have Franya Isley, and I'm so excited. I first want to say that the second I met her, I knew that I wanted to have her on the show because she's going to talk about a very unique form of clutter. And so I want to invite the divorce coach extraordinaire, Franya. Thank you for being here.
You are welcome. Thank you very much. I am honored to be here.
So I'm going to give you an opportunity to tell your story, what happened, how you got where you are, and how you started your business, Shero, which, as we discussed already, is not S-Hero. It is Shero, and that she is. So, Franya, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got to where you are now?
Well, I had been at work for 14 hours. I came home to a totally empty house. Now, I got out of my car. I drove it into the garage. I opened up the door, and you should see a washer and dryer. Did I pay attention? No. When I went into the kitchen, I opened the door, and I went, the refrigerator's gone. And I thought, it's eerily quiet in here and dark. Even though my husband was home, he was in the military, but he was home on that night. And I thought, he knew I was going to be running late. His car was gone. He was probably out running around, and he'll be back here in a moment. As I kept turning on lights and I kept walking through the house, I noticed that the dining room table was gone. The living room furniture was gone. All of a sudden, it hit me. Everything in the house was gone. Everything in a 3-bedroom house was gone. I say everything, except he did not take my clothes, but he did take the hangers. About a week later, I wrote a check to a friend of mine and sent it off to her. She calls me. She says, Franya, she says, your check came back. And I said, oh, my paycheck had just gone in. I know money's in there. She goes, oh, no, you don't understand. The account's been closed. Well, come to find out, he took all the money out of 4 bank accounts and closed those accounts. And I went, oh. And the night that I came home when everything was gone, I thought I'm going to do something with my clothes. I went to the store. Did I buy a suitcase? Oh, no. I bought trash bags. So I put all my clothes in trash bags. And I went to a hotel that night, and I sat there, and I wasn't devastated. I was just more like, wow, this is going to be interesting. And it took me a couple of days into this because I was still going to work at a full-time job. And I was like, I'm homeless. I'm penniless. And now I'm so peaceful. This peace came over me. And I was like, embrace this. Feel all your feelings. If you're mad, feel them. If you're angry, you want to scream, that is an emotion that needs to get out. Go for it. And I did that a couple of times. And I felt much better. My insides felt better. And I was like, okay, I'm wiping my slate clean and I'm starting over. And I'm getting back to the core of who I am. And from that moment forward, that's exactly what I did. I put one foot in front of the other. Now, do I feel like I took 5 steps backwards at times? Yes. But I still put one foot forward.
Franya, thank you for sharing that. And I know there are people listening or watching who are wondering, did you sense that anything was coming? Was there shock? You thought the relationship was great or it was bad? What were those thoughts and feelings?
I had no idea that it was coming. Now, with that being said, we were in the military and he did not re-up for his last tour. And I got very angry with him. And we had an adult conversation for the first time in our marriage life on my 30th. And the only reason we could have that conversation is that I was help raising 4 of his older sister's children. So we were busy from the moment we got those children, 6 years earlier to the time of this. And we always knew the children were going to go back. And they had gone back that summer. We had an adult conversation. And I just don't think he knew how to handle civilian life. Coming out of the military, they tell you what to do, when to do, and how to do it, and what time it needs to be done, and your deadline is. Coming out to a civilian life, is a whole different ball of wax. And I think he was just having a really hard time adjusting.
Very interesting. So tell me, was there relief involved while all of this was happening?
Yes, I think I was ready for this separation and the divorce
Hmm.
and just didn't know it until he was gone.
All things being equal, although it's not equal when you're left with nothing. So let's talk about the mental and emotional clutter associated with someone leaving you, deserting you, etc. Tell me about that mental clutter, whether it was a very short-lived feeling or emotion. What are the things that go through your head when someone deserts you?
For me, it was, and I think many people too, is the fact that I love that couch. I love that dining room table. We picked that out together. We spent 3 weeks looking for the perfect table and we found it. And now it's gone. I have no way of getting that back. And in my case, I didn't have any way. I didn't know where he went. I don't even know where he is to this day. So knowing that I couldn't go back and say, hey, that was my washer and dryer, or that was the perfect dining room table. I want my dining room table back, or our dining room table, because it's now going to be yours. It's making that separation in your mind. Now you've got to separate yourself because it was always ours and now it's mine. And the mental part of that is the fact that, and now I have to replace it. How do you want to do that? When do you want to do that? And for me, I was like, I can't do all this at once. Take the next look at the book in your life. Think, how do I want to gather my stuff back up and not have all the mental chatter, all the mental clutter, and the limiting beliefs? How do I put it back into my life with peace and grace?
Right. That's beautiful. I'm with my husband since college, and he's a pretty good guy. My parents are divorced, and there was a whole lot of mental and emotional clutter there. And they divorced when I was an adult. My husband and I have said on numerous occasions that we want to do everything the opposite of what our parents did. His father was married 3 times. The third marriage was the good one. His mother was married twice, and the second one was the really good one. But I'm confident that my husband and I are doing a much better job than any of our parents did when it comes to like taking care of each other and, being respectful and loving and caring and all the things. I would assume when someone leaves, all of a sudden you feel less lovable or worthy or deserving of love. Did you go through any of those feelings?
No, I did not. That has to do with the way I was raised. I was raised by a policeman who was a no-nonsense person. My mother worked every day of my life, and she taught me you can have it all because I'm showing you we have it all. My mentors are my parents. If it weren't for them, I would not be the person that I am today. I have always been independent and I have always been opinionated. And with all of that said, I did have to start my life over when I was 20 years old. It took me almost 3 years to learn how to walk, talk, and write all over again.
Yes, I realized that we started with the divorce. We didn't start with the first real big trauma in your life. So why don't you tell all of us a little bit about that?
Well, I was 20 years old and I was on a first date with a guy and being the daughter of a cop. I normally do not like anyone, let anyone come pick me up for a date because they always got interrogated. And this was the first time that I let a gentleman come pick me up. And at the end of the day, driving back to my apartment, we hit a brick building called the Firm Foundation Bookstore at full speed. The driver did not survive the accident. That was his 10th DWI. No one had ever been in the car with him except me, and I survived. I am here for a reason, and I embrace it. I may not know what the exact reason is, but I do go forth with what I am doing now with compassion, passion, and wanting to empower women to know that they are worthy and they are worth of it. And like I was just said earlier, it did take me almost 3 years to learn how to walk, talk, and write all over again.
So
That also,
you're a survivor at its roots. You've survived 2 major traumas. I would imagine, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that your ability to survive being deserted and then subsequently getting divorced, that you went into that with a survivor's attitude because of what you had gone through when you were 20. Is that fair to say?
Yes, it is very fair to say. And also coming out of the military, my husband was gone anywhere between 2 and 3 weeks out of every month. And then you've got women who their husbands are deployed for months and years. You're doing everything solo right now in that scenario. You can handle it no matter what comes to you, no matter what you're faced with. You are handling it. And take a look at that and take stock in that and saying to yourself, I'm a superwoman. I'm doing it. He came home and he comes into a brand new world. You've got children who are walking, children who are going back to school, children who are going from junior high into high school. Their world has changed. You're doing it. Go forth, superwoman.
I love that. While I'm not in the military, no one in my immediate family is. I have friends who have military spouses, and hear so many stories about the PTSD that so many of them come home with. Did you see that in your ex-husband?
No, maybe just because he was not in a war. He was doing some type of exercises. Now, I do not know what my ex-husband did in the military. I was not allowed to know because of his security clearance.
Gotcha. So, your experience, I think people who live through an experience like that, like you said, you're on this earth for a reason. And I think the best coaches, therapists, cheerleaders are those who have been through it before, whether it's in the 20 years of weight loss coaching that I did. Why was I so valued? Well, I had been through the process. I have dealt with clutter. That's why I'm a good coach, because I have the compassion and I don't put people through embarrassment and shame and ridicule, which is for sure what makes you so great at what you do in supporting women going through divorce. So tell me about your clients. What does working with you look like? How do you serve them? What are the goals for most of those women who come to you, and how do you help them achieve those goals?
I help them through my RISE framework, RISE. The R is for reclaim. In the military, I was never called Franya. I was Mrs. So-and-so, or I was Officer so-and-so's wife. When you went onto base to use a service, they asked for a social security number. They do not want yours. They want his. Reclaiming your identity, reclaiming your core values. Because I'm going to ask you, you're 16 years old. I'm your mother. What do you want to be when you grow up? Let's go back to that. I is for inspire. I am going to inspire you to take the covers off your head, get out of bed every morning. And believe me, I know that's hard. I have been there. I have done that. And S is for support. I'm going to support you in anything you want to do. And you may come back to me 2 days later and say, Franya, that's the dumbest thing I ever did. And I'm going to say, what did you learn? And do we need to tweak it or do we need to scrap it? And the E is for empower. I want to empower you to go to the next book of your life. The book is called Myself. The first chapter is You or I, however you're writing it, and you are the author of that book. The book of your marriage, put it on the shelf. It is history. Let's go forth to what you want your life to look like. Because I'm going to also ask you, what do you want your life to look like when you're 93 and 81 and 69 and a half and 42? Let's get you from where you are to where you want to go. Think of me as being your Sherpa. I meet you at your base camp. Where are you right now? I'm going to take you to the summit and beyond. I do that with compassion, accountability. I don't judge. There is no bullying. Judging does nothing but cloud, as a coach, clouds your own judgment, your own mind, to think that you're judging someone, and you can't do that.
You're not going to help someone get to the root of their problems if they're feeling judged, or you're not going to even get them to be honest and open with you because they're not going to feel like they can. Let me ask a question. Are women coming to you before the divorce, during the divorce, post-divorce, all of the above? When are they typically coming to you?
All of the above. Some of them have only heard the word divorce 2 seconds ago, or they're in the middle of they're on the merry-go-round and they just do not know how to get off of it, or they're 20 years hence and they're still questioning, am I going the right direction? Am I doing the right thing. I'm not worthy. I am not lovable. And I'm going to say, yes, you are. My ex-husband walked out on me when I was 30. I did remarry when I was 50. Married the love of my life. Now, I was not smart enough to not marry the military again, because I did. I married the Air Force again. But at least he was out this time.
Can we talk about this husband of yours first? Let's let everybody know that you and I both know how to find the best Bills on the planet. We both are married to Bills, Billies, Williams, whatever you want to call them.
Yes.
We didn't talk about this today, but we talked about this the last time we spoke. Your husband's a little bit younger than you are, right?
Oh, just a little bit. 14 years.
So talk to me. So how old were the both of you when you got married or when you met, dated, whatever?
Actually, well, let's just start with that. We actually interviewed each other and we tried to scare each other off. And we tried to make it where neither one of us were going to have a relationship beyond just being friends. We see how that helped and how that worked. It just was very organic. When we got married, I was 50 and he was 35.
So one of the reasons I wanted to bring this up is I think there's a whole lot of clutter out there when it comes to older women and younger men in a way that we don't see the other way around. And I don't think that comes from you and from him. It comes from the people around you. Was there, side eyes and giggles, jokes, or anything like that?
There were a few.
Mhm.
And then once I learned that my husband was the oopsie baby in his family, and he wasn't born until his dad was 43 and his mother was 40, and they lived out in the country. He was never around children. He was only around his adult parents. So he had an adult mindset, an old soul, and he was actually looking for an older woman who had been there, done that, and didn't want all of the let me sow my wild oats even while we're married, because we wanted to be.
So as an only child myself, well, I grew up in the city. There were kids everywhere. And, I had my friends from school and I was a competitive gymnast, as most of the listeners know. And so I had my teammates, I had my friends from sleepaway camp. I think my parents did a good job of making sure there were other kids around me. I spent a lot of time with my cousins, but I also spent a lot of time in the company of adults only. And I think that made me better at speaking to adults. In fact, people would say I was an old soul, which I don't believe is true. I think as a child, I just knew how to communicate with people who were older. It didn't mean that like some part of me was older. So I kind of get what your husband is talking about. It didn't make me interested in older men, though. I'm just I want to put that out there. Or my husband is older, but he's 3 years older. It was a big difference when I was 18 and he was 21. It is not a big difference at 55 and 58 by any stretch of the imagination. Okay, so you didn't get it from the two of you, but did you get it from other people around you?
If we did, we didn't notice because we did not care what people thought. My husband had been in a 10-year relationship, and it was an emotional ride with abuse of being that psychological and that emotional abuse. And he was done with that. And the fact that someone who was older had lived some life, he knew that was not going to be part of the relationship going forward.
Right. I feel like there's a lot of that, like if we're going to call it clutter, there's talk clutter or gossip clutter, right? I think that's really where I assume, like, did you see who Bill married? Oh, Franya, did you see how young her husband is? The fact that you guys don't care about that is an incredibly powerful thing, because I think a lot of other people, because of issues with self-esteem or feeling too much like under the microscope, would be negatively affected by what other people say, do, think, et cetera. So the more power to the two of you. That's amazing.
Thank you.
We've lived life, haven't we? That's beautiful. So tell me a little bit more about your client. You gave me the framework and you work it with women at every stage of divorce, pre, during, post. What does a conversation with you look like?
I want to know where you are in your journey. Are you just starting this journey? Are you on the merry-go-round, or are you post-divorce? What do you want out of life? How do you see your life going forward? I do have a content journey that I take you down. I want to hold you accountable for where you are. I want to make sure that you are ready to move forward, because you may not know that you're ready, but you really are. Once you hear your own voice and get that clarity, you will find out that you are ready to move forward, and you just don't know how. I'm here to give you the stepping stones. I'm here to say, borrow my courage until we fill your cup up, because this is going to take courage. It's going to take tears. It's going to take screaming. And I want you to embrace every emotion.
I appreciate that honesty, not sugarcoating it for someone. Like, you're going to be fine, as opposed to, you know what? We're going to go up and down and it's going to be a circuitous path. There's nothing linear about this. Be ready for it. Although I'm sure that so many of them come to you and they've already been on that roller coaster ride that leads to and comes out of divorce.
And I found the fact that if you're straightforward with a woman or with anyone, then she is going to be appreciated of the fact that I'm not going to be one of maybe her friends or her acquaintances who are giving the platitudes of you're going to be okay, it's going to be fine, or you're better off without him. You will never hear that out of my mouth.
I think those are similar to, it could be so much worse. And I think when we hear things like that, the person who's saying it is from the best intention. They're the people who are close to you. They love you and they want you to feel good, and don't realize that when they're saying those things negates how we're feeling in the moment.
Yes, I fully agree with that. And I understand that you want to go up and say, it's going to be okay. You've got to say more to that. And you just don't know how. You don't know what to say. It's even being the friend, you just don't know what to say. You're just as lost for words as they are lost for where they are in their journey right now. With me, I want you to feel confident and brave to open your heart with me with everything that you have, because I'm going to help you sort it all out. Put those pieces back together the way you want them put together. Who do you want to be called in the future? How do you want your mindset to be so that when you are 93 years old, you're not looking back at all these regrets. You're looking back at these as being my life, my fun journey.
So let me ask a question. With respect to that, what would you want people to know that they should say to someone who's a client of yours, someone who's going through divorce? What would be better vocabulary than it's going to be okay, it could be worse, yada, yada, yada?
I don't know what you're going through. I can appreciate that you're upset. I don't know how to support you in every level that you need. Let me help you find someone to talk to pour your heart out, to take you down this journey, who has been through it and not necessarily been through it the easy way, because it wasn't for me. It wasn't fast. It wasn't easy. And I know that it's never going to be easy. It's not a fast process. You don't walk out and say, I'm divorced. In most cases, walk out the door and say, we're getting divorced. And the next day you're signing papers and it's done. It's an up and a down, an ebb and a flow and a back and a forth. And that's what when I say you're in the middle of the merry-go-round, is when you two are negotiating what's going to happen next. And it may be your attorneys are negotiating what's going to happen next. It may be a judge who's going to tell you what's going to happen next. I'm here as that resource to say, we're going to get you through the journey.
I think it's so similar to someone who's coaching someone with a cancer diagnosis or another kind of health diagnosis, or someone who's experienced loss, because that's what divorce is. It's, loss of, the relationship, the life you had been living, losing a job, losing, a spouse, a child, a parent. In all of those situations, maybe someone has lived through that, but that doesn't mean that they should be in the business of giving advice, as opposed to saying, you tell me what you need from me. I want you to know that I'm here to support you. I love you, but I'm not going to assume what you need. You tell me what you need.
Absolutely. And that's why I ask a lot of those open-ended questions, because I want you to hear what you need. And I will say, you've got 3 seconds to answer this, because that comes from the gut. You don't have your brain thinking about, how do I answer this? I want to know what your gut is saying. Well, I'm ready to go. Well, then let's go. Well, I need to slow down. Why do you need to slow down? There's the whys and the whats and the hows. And that gives them time to pause and think just a little bit about how they want this life to work. You've already been on the merry-go-round of, I'm the mother, I'm the wife, I'm the cook, I'm the taxi driver, I'm the laundry maid. And now you've got to look at yourself in the mirror really hard. And I know that's hard to do. That's scary to do that.
Yeah.
I'm worth it. I'm going to survive this. I want to survive this.
So, because this is the podcast about clutter, I like to ask people, the experts that I bring on, experts in their field, people who help other people navigate until clutter. I think it's important for everybody to know we're not perfect. We've all got clutter of some kind, and it could be digital or calendar or people or social media or 24-hour news cycle. It could be physical clutter. So, Franya, what is your clutter?
Well, I have gone from homeless to nothing and penniless. I have got too much physical clutter. And some of those ladies who are over the age of 65 are going, I've got too much. It just hit you. One day, it just like, it hit me. I've got too much. So I have been systematically going through my closet, the dishes, the pots, the pans. What do I have in my file cabinets drawers? Because I've got 4 file cabinets behind me here with all of this stuff in it. What do I really need to keep? So I've systematically started with my clothes, and I do come out of the corporate world. And I no longer am in corporate. That's the first thing I got rid of. That's the first thing I donated. Then I started with my shirts. And then I started with my pants. I did one step at a time, because it can be overwhelming, but it feels so good to put it into a box and take it to the donation and say, someone else can use this.
I love everything you're saying, because my clients and my listeners know that I operate in what I call ridiculously simple goals, which what you just said is like operating in categories. You don't have to clean it all. You don't have to empty the whole closet. You don't have to give it all away. You don't have to sell it all on Poshmark. One category. Do the socks, do the pants, the shirts, like you mentioned, like one category at a time. So, and to your point, and once you've given it to someone who's going to give it a new life, that feels so good. It's also, in it feeling good, is you're gaining confidence that you can do it and you can do more of it. It motivates you and inspires you. So your approach has been great. And I also love that idea that I went from nothing to too much, and I'm going back down, but I'm not going to nothing. I'm not implying that you have a hoard by any stretch of the imagination. You just said it's stuff I don't need. But those who are high-level hoarders, that comes from trauma. And often that trauma is losing everything, like you've said. And as a result, the collecting becomes fierce, and the not letting go of that stuff, not recognizing that it's time to let it go, comes from, I lost everything before. There's a potential I will lose it again. So I better hold on to it, like clenching my fists. So your ability to see past that, it's amazing. Before we were talking, you mentioned dishes. How'd you collect so many dishes over time?
Well, I do love antique glass. So I did collect a few sets of dishes. However, my sister and I were roommates after my divorce for a bit, and we had our house. So when we divided, because I actually moved back home to help my parents, she took half of the house and I took the other half. Then my parents passed away. She took half of that. I had half of that. And then when my husband and I got together, he had all of his house. So I had 2 half houses of stuff over here, and he had all of his house. And when we moved from Texas to Missouri, we got rid of a lot of stuff, but we just didn't get rid of enough, because when we came up here, we still had 4 ironing boards and 5 irons and 2 refrigerators and 2 washer and dryers and things that we just did not really need. We just didn't have time to unload them So we brought them.
Moving is often the best strategy for letting go. But to your point, if you don't get started with the packing process early enough, all of a sudden you're just throwing everything in boxes, moving. And then when you're unloading, you're like, why did I even bring this with me? My mother loves to tell the story about my aunt moving from New York to San Francisco. And when the moving truck got out there and they were unloading, there was a bag of trash. Like somehow the trash went in the truck with stuff, which is another indication of we were moving fast and trying to make things happen. So, Franya, this has been amazing, but do you have any last thoughts or things that you would want listeners to know?
Yes, you are darn well worth it, and you are stronger than you know you are, and you believe you are.
What a beautiful way to finish the episode. Franya, thank you for being here.
You are welcome. Thank you for having me on.
Of course.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of Lighten Up, the Art of Living Clutter-Free. I hope you found a spark of inspiration to help declutter not just your space, but your mind and life as well. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who could use a little lightness in their life. Remember, it's not about being perfect, it's about progress. Small steps lead to big changes, and I'm here to help you every step of the way. For more tips, resources, and ways to connect, check out my website, follow me on social media, and don't forget to check out the Design Your Healthy Life Strategy program to take your transformation even further. Until next time, keep letting go of what no longer serves you and making room for what truly lights you up.